I don't know whether you've heard, but I'm offering some spaces in my calendar for supercharge your fertility discovery calls. So this call is for you if you're ready to get pregnant naturally or improve your chances at the fertility clinic. We take a functional approach to fertility. It's the future of conventional medicine. There is a reason that so many medical professionals work with us. The approach is rooted in science. The call is for both you and your partner, and all you do is go to FabFertile, FabFertile.com and click on book a free call. Then you'll be booked in and ready to spend 30 of the most valuable minutes on your fertility ever.
You know, there are so many women that are doing it quote unquote right. They do what is expected of them. They get married, they have the children. It just works out for them. They find the love that they were looking for and the partner that they would like to have a child with. And for others, our life in that regard did not progress.
Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Clark, and my mission is to inspire, motivate, and empower you. Most of all, I want you to wake up. So with functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse the condition. Today, I'm welcoming Bettina Gordon to the podcast, and we're digging into getting pregnant naturally in our 40s. Bettina Gordon-Wayne is an international journalist and certified mental strength trainer with an uber-passion for travel. At age 44, she became the third generation of women in her family to have healthy children at an age the mainstream deems dangerous. In her best-selling book, The Joy of Later Motherhood, Bettina shares the stories and advice of women over 40 who all had natural pregnancies, healthy babies, and to show that other women of advanced maternal age what is possible and in fact perfectly natural. Bettina currently resides in Washington, D.C. and Vienna, Austria with her husband Joshua, her wild child Hunter, and Georgia, the squirrel-chasing pit bull mix. For more on Bettina's work and free resources, visit BettinaGordon.com. Before we jump into today's show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this to make sure you never miss an episode. Hey Bettina, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you.
Hey, I'm excited, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you could share, and I know you've shared your journey in your book, but if you could share your journey here with the listeners, kind of how you came to do this work.
Yes. Oh, I'd love to. So I am a journalist and one of these women that are now considered, I'm doing the air quote unquote sign, older moms, you know, the ones that didn't get the memo that you shouldn't have a child over 35 because basically you can't. And I didn't get the memo. And I'm actually the third generation of women in my family to have the children in their 40s. I was 44 when I had my boy. My mom was 42 when she had me, and my grandmother was 42 when she had my aunt. So I am one of the women that come through motherhood a bit later in life than others. And when I had my boy, I enjoyed it so much, Sarah. There is so much positivity when you're a mature woman and you have your child when the time is right for you, that is so beneficial for the mom, for the parents, but also for the child. And I so enjoyed this experience. And being a journalist, I mentioned that, I thought, you know, I was holding my little baby in my arms and I was like really thinking, my God, am I lucky? I had a beautiful life before that was rich in life experiences. And now I have this baby and I have my family, that I wanted to write a book about it. And again, I'm a journalist, so that comes naturally. No, I want to share this joy with other women who maybe have doubts about later motherhood. And so I set out to write this book, and I had my baby in my arm, and I was reaching over to my computer and open it up, and then I made the mistake that most likely almost all of us make. I asked Dr. Google for advice. Yeah, so I reached over and I typed in, I don't know exactly what it was like, motherhood over 40 or pregnancy at advanced maternal age, and you know, I topics like this, keywords like this, and I hit the return, and then I hit the return key, and then Sarah, I could not believe what I was reading. There was one headline after the other, only telling me about fertility is going to increase and free fall after 40. The risks of anything going wrong shoots up at the same time, and all like one negative story after the other. Just the headline made me scared, actually. I was noticing, I was reading, just the headlines alone gave me fear. And I noticed really this knot in my stomach. I had come to this with so much hope and inspiration. I wanted to write a book, and I'm telling you, I went from this feeling of inspiration and love and hope to that feeling of, oh my God, scared, disappointed, and thinking, oh my God, what am I thinking? And I went from the positive to the negative in one Google page flat. That's how much it took. And I already had my baby, Sarah. He was in my arms. And I thought, my God, this can't be. There are literally millions of women around the world who, for a variety of reasons, come to motherhood later than others. And this is the only narrative that they're finding when they look for help and inspiration. That's the only narrative that's out there. And I felt this, Sarah. I was like, this can't be. This cannot simply be. And it became sort of a personal mission for me. I was really like, so I was getting angry. I'm like, no, we cannot accept this. And it became my personal mission to bring different voices to this narrative. And hopefully, if there are more and more women gathering around this different narrative, change the old one. Because this is really the reason why I set out to write my book, which is now called The Joy of Later Motherhood, and for which I didn't want to just use my own example of, having a natural pregnancy and beautiful, uneventful pregnancy and a natural birth and so on. I wanted to see if my example, was I just the outlier, or are there many more women like me in this world and we just don't know about them? So I started to really research this book. I thought, I was on a mission to change this crazy pants narrative that just gives you the fear and no hope at all. And I started to interview other women who had at the beginning, the parameter was the first child over 40. And at the beginning, I interviewed women who had them naturally, women who adopted, women who had IVF, even surrogacy, just the women in my environment. And about 20 to 30 interviews in, I noticed something very interesting. I noticed that over half of the women that I had until that point interviewed had natural pregnancies. And being a journalist, I thought this is really the story, because this is not what we are told at all. We are told that after 35, it's going to be difficult. After 40, it's going to be almost impossible to conceive children, healthy children, without help, without IVF, IUI, and so on. And when I noticed this, I thought oh my God, okay, so then the focus shifted. And I thought okay, I want to look for more women who had natural pregnancies in their 40s. And this is what I focused on now. And then, Sarah, I found, so I live in Washington, D.C., which is a little bit easier because, in the big metropolitan areas, you find women that come to motherhood later more often. Yeah, because it's also a little more accepted, and so you find them more often. But I found easily, I never posted in my social media community that I'm looking for women who had their first child in the 40s. Naturally, I didn't, and I also never went to a forum to ask for women, I never did that. It was just word of mouth. I just asked a friend of mine, I said, do you know anybody, and so on. And within a short amount of time, I had about 60 women, all in the 40s, first, sometimes 3 children, 1, 2, 3 children in the 40s, all through natural conception, natural pregnancies. And I sat down with them and I said, okay, so how was it for you? I asked them questions like, hey, why did you come to motherhood later in life? How was it for you? What was your story? And they gave me remarkable, most of them, they opened up in a way that was so wonderful to see. And what I told them is, I said, listen, I don't have to use your real name. I just want to have your real story. And they gave me such wonderful, open accounts of their lives and what happened, that I was able to, like, out of the 60, for some women, they just said to me, well, I met my husband later in life. We got married at 40. We tried to have a child when I was 41. I fell pregnant within 3 months. Everything was good, and so on. I had many of these stories, but that doesn't, that's nice for her and beautiful to hear as a testimonial, but that doesn't make a good story for a book.
Yeah.
So out of the 60, I distilled about 18 or 19 of the women that went through like a real journey to get to the place in their life where they started their families. And many of them had to overcome challenges. But the point is that they all had natural pregnancies. And I discovered that there is a whole world where women in that age bracket that's so feared, the advanced maternal age, 35 plus, when every doctor looks at you sideways and says through his breath or her breath that, why did you wait so long? That in this age bracket, there is a whole other world that is where the women are fertile, vibrant, alive, full of energy, and where families can happen and are created every single day, but we usually don't hear about them until now. This is really why I wrote The Joy of Later Motherhood with the subtitle, Your Natural Path to Healthy Babies, even in your 40s, because I wanted to really add a different narrative to the one that's currently domineering. And I set out to change that, and I'm so happy. The book has come out this year. It's available in US bookstores and through Amazon and online retailers all around the world. And the feedback that I'm getting, Sarah, this is so heartwarming. I am so glad that a few years ago, I decided to write this book, because with the stories that the women are telling me, it really makes a difference. It can make a huge difference in a woman's life when she sees other stories and another way of just approaching this whole topic of later motherhood.
Yeah, to see there's other people just like her, whereas, all the media is telling us, we need to freeze our eggs, there's a panic, and we've got it, like the clock is ticking.
Yes.
And we're really in a panic.
Yeah, exactly.
Over 35.
Yes, and who is helped by this? Nobody. I mean, you know this better than anybody, that the connection between the mind, the mind, our busy mind that is reading all the statistics, that is reading all, not just the headlines. I usually only read the headlines, but they read the whole story and you absorb it. And the connection between the mind and the body, that every thought that we have sets in motion a biological cascade of hormones that are going through our bodies. This panic that we are in simply by reading this isn't helping anybody. It makes the situation worse.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know you've got a study here that I guess has been told over and over again, and kind of the basis of why we think that pregnancy when you're older is difficult. And can you share that study with us and kind of where some of the stats come from?
I think you're referring to, there was a researcher, her name is Dr. She wrote also the book, The Impatient's Guide to Fertility or Motherhood. She wrote a book, and so we have a lot of statistics out there, and this is why I caution every woman to read statistics, because some of them are based on data. That's not my research, that's her research. That goes back to data from France in the 1800s, 17 or 1800s. The root of the data, she traced that back. That's not me saying this. She did that. And when she first published her research, there was a big uproar. And then, I've done really, again, I'm a journalist, a lot of research, and I've read so many studies where the result of the study differs from one to the other, where you also must not forget that who has the best statistics on fertility? That's usually the infertility clinics, because they need to have immaculate records of their work, because this is their own statistic. This is their success rate is measured by the statistics. So they have the best data. So very often statistics that we read in the media, online, wherever, comes from data that is collected in the infertility clinics. But I would be very, very, very much surprised. So these are women and couples. They already go to the clinic because they're challenged with fertility. But these are not the couples that try naturally and conceive naturally. That's what I wanted to say. I would be very highly surprised if my data is really collected and used for statistics. I have seen small, like a few hundred women, I have seen small studies on natural conception that were very promising, but I have not seen big studies yet. Hopefully they're going to come out, but right now the statistics are skewed because of the data, where the data is collected. And then also, please, I would encourage our listeners here not to pay so much attention to the statistics, because they are also sometimes wrongly reported in the media. Just the other day, I think it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, I read a statistic in one of the articles, and it could not be true. It said like 90% of women over 40 can never conceive naturally. And then I looked, and there was the source of that one statistic. And I looked. It turns out, and this is very common practice, one journalist just had copied from an article that was previously published. That statistic was copied from another one. I never was able to really trace to the source, but I can 99% assure you that the first journalist made a mistake, either couldn't read or interpret a statistic correct, and really wrote 90% of women cannot conceive, and then it was copied by other. And they're often not even journalists. These are people that are hired to just put something up online, and they copy, and it's wrongly copied. So I highly encourage women not to dive too much into the statistics, because you don't know where they come from, and you don't know if they're really, really correct or not. And having said that, I would like to present one statistic that I came across also just last week, which I found was really, really nice. So let me just a little rephrase here, that we know we're living in the Western world, and we see it and hear it every day, that, fertility drops after 35 and really goes into free fall after 40, which I always found very funny, because I thought, like, yes, I surely have very, very smart ovaries, but they don't know when I'm turning 40. They don't know. That's surely very smart, but they don't know. It's my mind that knows. It's my mind that goes into the panic. And, there's the cascade of cortisol and, all the stress hormone pumping through my body. My ovaries would have been fine, but now they also get the message, oh, we have to worry. So in the Western world, we are saying that, advanced maternal age, all downhill. In traditional Chinese medicine, however, and I learned this from our colleague, Andrew Loosley, in Chinese medicine. So Chinese medicine is a 5,000-year-old science, while the medical education that we see today is only about 100 years old. That centralized education, it's just about 100 and a few years old, and they've been doing this for 5,000 years. And according to Andrew, for the last 1,500 years, they focused on fertility. So there's really so much more knowledge of the overall physiology of a woman, not just the little, not just her ovaries and her womb, that area. And in Chinese medicine, a woman is fertile. They're not even worried until she's 49, which is a much, much bigger window than we have, until she's 49. And then I saw a statistic that, unfortunately, again, we don't know where the statistic comes from, because I could not, the person who wrote the article did not mention the source of the statistic. But women age 35, 66% of them will get pregnant in the first year of trying. And out of those who cannot get pregnant in the first year, 84% will be pregnant after 4 years of trying. So it's also just a question of how long you really try. Mm-hmm. Then at age 40, 44% of women age 40 fall pregnant within the first year. And out of those who haven't yet, 64% will conceive within the first 4 years of trying. So from 40 to 44. And now the 64% will conceive and this is really the point, and have a live birth. Not just being pregnant and then potentially having a miscarriage, but really having a live birth, having a baby. So, there are also other very positive statistics out there. We just hardly ever see them. And so I wanted to present this one to the listeners, because it's nice to have a nice statistic, a positive one from time to time, is it not?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the one that got people confused is the one from the article in the Human Reproduction Journal. So in 2004, where it said 1 in 3 women ages 35 to 39 will not be able to get pregnant after a year of trying. And that comes from that data is in the 1800s, where it was just old data.
Oh, that was the one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And but I think
people keep quoting that stat, and it's embedded in people's minds, saying, "Well, wait, it's going to be difficult." So 1 in 3 people are not going to get pregnant, or women are not going to get pregnant, and it's old data.
Yeah, it's old data. And again, this researcher, she again also traced other statistics back to old data. And I mean, like, who needs this? And everybody's freaking out.
Yeah, exactly. So for your book, you had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Christiane Northrup, which is exciting.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, from your book, actually, she had a cool quote here that I like. So she said, many women have already talked themselves out of pregnancy before they even try to conceive. And because their uterus and their brains are so profoundly connected, women are making themselves infertile but don't even know it. The more left hemisphere dominant you get, the more MBAs, PhDs you have, the higher up the food chain you are, the worse it gets. A lot of people that come to work with us, it's the very type A.
Yes.
A lot like highly educated, and then being able to get into that feminine energy and the whole receiving instead of pushing it can be a little challenging. So what's your take on her statement?
Yeah, I think it cannot be just a little bit challenging. It is mind-blowing. Excuse me, after we are we women are very often now highly educated, which is wonderful. It's really awesome. We can go in careers higher often than we were able to do just a generation ago. And we have really, what we are celebrating in the Western world is intelligence. It's how the mind works, and we are using our minds, our brains to go through life and, have a beautiful career and earn out all the degrees that we want and can earn. And we are using our mind all the time. We are living in our heads. I would say the majority of our time. And exactly as you said, the feminine energy, but for us, it's always go, earn, get, go, get, earn. And the feminine energy that we really need to harness to create life, conceive a child, create life, is often forgotten, and we just don't practice listening to our bodies. How often have you gone to work, or I have gone and did some stuff? Well, my body actually would have said, hey, you're tired, stay home. Or, oh, you have a cold, take care of yourself. Or a headache, I just pop a pill and that's it if I need to function. But these are all the signs of the body that we have not learned to listen to. And this is where it starts. We're living in our heads. And now for conception, we need our bodies. It's about receiving. And it is so hard for us educated women who usually we work very hard, and usually we are rewarded for hard work. We learn that if we give our best and we work hard and we give our best, there will be a reward at the end. And then we try to have a child and it doesn't work right away. We may dive into a lot of things, read all the statistics, the books, and what can we do and so on, and apply ourselves, but then are shocked if we don't get the reward that we were hoping for because we gave it all. And then a certain kind of desperation sets in and sets a whole slew of emotions free. And I think this is in your work and in my work, when the women start also, on one hand, this time when these emotions are coming up, can be a scary time, but it's also the time that we start realizing that we cannot just live in our heads anymore, not all the time. Now this is different. Questions like, what does my body want? What does my body need? How can I help my body to be in a much more fertile state than it was before? This is then the time when we start getting acquainted again with our own bodies. And how many of us don't even know what's happening during a menstrual cycle or what's happening hormonally in our bodies, that there are actually 4 phases of one cycle. We don't even know this. And unfortunately, we often realize that we have lived disconnected from our bodies then when conception is not happening, and especially if this conception is not happening in our time frame. Do you know what I mean? This is another way of, let's just time it, And then when it doesn't happen, we are confronted sometimes harshly with the reality that it's now time to maybe take a few steps back, not run 150 miles per hour, and develop that relationship to our bodies again.
Yeah, it is like, listen, your body will whisper, and when you ignore the signals, it'll start shouting out in the form of disease. And and especially if we're in this whole pushing, getting, achieving, and then we apply that same mentality to the fertility journey, it's more this, you do all these things, which is good in a way, because you're going to get stuff done. You're just going to sit there. But there's also that sitting back a little bit. So I interviewed Elizabeth Manning.
What she said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she said, like, setting the intention, because it's, you've got to actually do some work here to move through it, or just to look at it a little differently. So setting an intention, but then just to surrender to the intention. And I think some people get the intention part, but the surrender part
is hard.
Like looking at the patience, and this is something that I still struggle with. This is my struggle, where it's my pattern too, where I will continually put like way too many things on my plate. And then, because I get so excited about a whole bunch of different things. And then every time I'm like, oh my goodness. And then my health will go down because I've done too much. I haven't, practiced self-care, and it kind of goes in this little pattern. Now I'm able to recognize it before I go in and go, wait. Like, let's hold back a little bit, and being able, on the impatience thing, enjoying the journey and really like getting into the flow. I remember like years ago when I took the coaching program, life coaching, and there was a woman in there, and she's like, I just start my day and I don't really have an agenda, and I just kind of go with the flow. And I'm like,
who are you, woman,
bananas. Right? I'm like, what is that? And that's not necessarily my mentality. I'm more like, I'm a doer, and but I can now, within that, because I used to get a lot of like frustrations if there was roadblocks and things like that. I'm like, oh my God, I beat my way through the roadblock. And now I'm like, okay, so because it only serves to get me frustrated, whatever, because we're always going to come up with little different obstacles along the way. So it's how do you look at it? Do you want to like beat it over the head with a hammer, or you're like, okay, I'm going to actually flow through that a little bit and not get myself all wound up? And it is kind of that choice, because
yes, and Sarah, I think it's not even a choice; it's a decision that we have to make. Because if I learned anything also in research the book, you can't force it. Even like if you think that you can go and do IVF and that is going to take care of everything, that's not true. So like, I said before that don't focus on the statistics. And let me just bring one statistic in, because it comes from the clinics, that over 40, supposedly, it's in only 10 or 11% of the cases that IVF is successful. And so it's not even that we have this choice. It's that really, it's if you are serious of starting your family, this is the time to do it now. To embrace your feminine nature, yeah, and do things differently. As hard as that may be at the beginning, but this is the time now.
Mm-hmm. Mother yourself. Absolutely. Okay, and so as far as some worries or fears that you typically see as maybe a mature woman or a woman over 35, which that advanced maternal age seems ridiculous at 35, but what are some things, some common worries or fears that you typically saw when you were interviewing the women?
Yeah, it's not just the women that I've interviewed, but also all the ladies that I'm mentoring personally. The biggest, Sarah, is age. That is like, they call it maybe some little bit different, but the underlying fear is, am I too old? Is my body too weak now? Do I even have enough eggs? Can I carry a pregnancy? All these questions, and the even more, these are questions are full of fear and anxiety. And then you have the motherlode question is, did I waste my chances?
Mm-hmm. Is it too late?
Is it too late? And did I do this to myself? There is already, there's this blame and shame going on that is coming a little bit from the outside, because of the messaging like, hey, you should have had your child. That's I'm talking as society now. If you have it in between like 20 and 35, you're in the super acceptable bracket. You can have more than one. You can do your contribution to society, because your children will be members of society and keeping the GDP going and so on. There's this bracket where society says, okay, that's a good time. You go outside of this box. That's the accepted box by society, and you start getting the underlying message of, oh yeah, oh, you're 39? Were you so career-driven? Did you forget about having children? This underlying current that you're already shamed for not having achieved, quote unquote, what others have before. And that just goes on with age. And then there's this underlying, very often you just read also that, oh, women now waiting longer to have children, they are so career focused. Subtitle, they are so selfish, they're just looking out for themselves. This is the underlying emotion or the underlying shame, guilt, fear that's coming from the outside towards us. And then internally, it is a very hard emotion to sit with when you think, oh my God, did I do this to myself? Have I wasted my chances? So you feel guilty and maybe also a little ashamed that you were not smarter enough and tried earlier. And that is all a mixture that is very, very, very hard to swallow. And I always say to the ladies that I mentor, I said, nobody has the right to guilt trip or shame you for the way your life unfolded. And not even you have the right to do that. It's really like we need to understand that, there are so many women that are doing it, quote unquote, right. They do what is expected of them. They get married, they have the children. It just works out for them. They find the love that they were looking for and the partner that they would like to have a child with. And for others, our life in that regard did not progress. Most of the women that I interviewed for my book or that I mentor, they just have not found the right partner until they were in the late 30s, early 40s. So the primary reason for coming to motherhood later in life was love. Either they didn't find the right partner yet, or, and that also happens often, Sarah, their partner, husband, boyfriend, was not ready. That also happens often, you know? And it was only like the whole career thing was, oh yeah, there was maybe a reason for a couple of them, but not so many. So this is, the age thing is huge. And so this is what I also would like to just remind our readers. Hey, listen, your life unfolded or is now unfolding outside of the box. The box doesn't fit you anymore. You've grown above that, you know, this societal box that is not yours anymore. And in that realization that you did not fail because you didn't have your children earlier. This is not a failure. This is just a way of your life unfolded this way, and you are here at this place today that may be the very perfect moment for you to have a child, because I guarantee you, if you haven't had children before, there were very good reasons as to why not to. There were very good reasons. And even if you in your fantasy think, oh my God, I should have had one 5 years ago with my partner then, there was a reason you didn't do it 5 years ago, you know? So it's really, when it comes to that age, there's nothing you can do about it now. It's a number in your driver's license. It's no more than that. The real work is now in the, okay, this could be also the perfect time for you to be the best mother you can be. You know, I see so many positive aspects in mature motherhood, because the women that I interviewed, you know, we are usually in a very stable relationship. We are stable financially. We have worked. We've done a lot of work on ourselves. So we don't, you know, we are like with age, usually, not always. With age comes wisdom, and we have that now. And life experience. We don't sweat the small stuff anymore. We don't care what other people think of our mothering style, because we are more now trusting also in ourselves, in our ability, and in our motherly instinct to mother in a way that is right for us. And that part, I believe, like, I'm mothering very differently today in my 40s than I would have in my 20s. I am a more rounded, well-grounded person now than I was back then. And this is the benefit that the children can really reap. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Yeah, they're reaping the benefits of the life experience that we had before. So looking at age as something really positive, because you bring so much more now to the table of parenthood and motherhood, that we just, you know, very often it's in the shift of perspective. This is where the gold lies, in the shift of perspective. And the stories in my book, The Joy of Later Motherhood, almost all women, they had immense shift in perspective that made it then possible for them to really create the life now with the families in the way that's right for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so how do we move into that? How do we shift then, as you say in your book, Super Duper Fertile, how do we get into that place of believing that it's not going to true, that it's going to work, and that we don't need to, as our first step, that we're now at an advanced maternal age, we run straight to the fertility clinic in a panic.
Yeah. Look, this is not an overnight thing. I don't believe in just think positive thoughts, it's going to happen. No, it is baby steps. You make a conscious decision to say, okay, there is another world out there. Let me tip my toe into this water. I wrote the book. So it's like, for me, I would say, please go and order The Joy of Later Motherhood and start reading the book.
I agree. It is a great book. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Start immersing yourself, just pivoting from right now. We are all parked in that one corner that says, oh my God, quick. Another month is going by. My God, this is like the ticking clock. We have this image of the ticking clock. This is like an explosion in our body. Any moment it can go off. And the closing of the window of fertility, the window is closing. I need you to please pivot a little bit, just, step one step to the left or to the right, and start seeing that there is a whole other world out there. A world that is vibrant and fertile, and you're doing, look, there are so many beautiful practitioners. Their natural fertility is their specialty. They've been practicing for decades. They have helped women. Like, I've done so many interviews also with natural fertility experts. They have a success rate. Please, I did not go and really check if this is correct, but in between like 60%, 70%, there are practitioners, they work with women who have done so many IVFs. I remember Gabriela Rosa in Australia, who I totally like. She and I, we just get along really well.
Yeah, she's great.
She had a woman come who had over 20 IVFs. Which is, for me already, I cannot fathom that.
Yeah. No.
It's incredible. And her husband dragged her to go to Gabriela. He said, no, this is it. I can't do this anymore. We're going to Gabriela. And I don't know what was the health, was so compromised of this woman. I don't know what Gabriela did, but I can tell you, within a year or two, she conceived naturally and carried to term. She has a healthy, beautiful baby now after 20 IVFs. So there are so many beautiful practitioners out there. I mean, Sarah, this is the work that you're doing for so many years. Mm-hmm. This is, for me, I am the mindset person. I would say, please find yourself before you go to an IVF clinic, or in addition, whatever, some women, they feel some security with IVF, and that's all good and wonderful. Then I would say do it in addition. For others, IVF, just the assisted reproductive technology is not the right way for them. So I would say, please seek out, get a good team together. I would not, especially over 40, I would not go it alone, because there's so much information, beautiful information out there that can be also overwhelming. I think finding the right team, finding the practitioner that you love and trust, not just the practitioner who is good in what he or she does, but also a person that you feel a connection to. Because this is a time in your life, you're not going to a doctor because you have a cough. You are going to seek a partner on your journey when you are in a very vulnerable place. You want somebody who loves you too. You want somebody who is really supportive to you. Find that person, look at natural fertility experts, work with somebody like you, Sarah, somebody like me, somebody who is like whatever, you know best where you need the help the most, and do that. Go and work with somebody first before you consider IVF, because fertility is an extension of your health. If for whatever reason, also in your 40s, this is not just age. I often heard it too, I've heard so many stories of women being told in an infertility clinic, being told, oh, it's not working. Your egg quality is not good enough and you're just too old. And then they go to a natural fertility expert, work with him or her for 6 months or whatever. They discover in an infertility clinic, they just look at the symptoms. And naturally, a natural fertility expert looks at the whole person. They look for the cause of the problem. And once you heal the cause, once the overall health improves, fertility improves. I mean, your listeners know that. I'm just saying that one more time to bring home the point that there's a whole other world out there. Please dip your toes in. If you like it, make a firm stand that you are from now on, living in the world of fertility. Okay, that is really the most thing that I can say. start looking if it speaks to you. Look, every woman is unique. Every woman has a sense of, hey, is this right or not for me? For some people, for some women, just IVF is the one thing that really speaks to them. And for the others, there's a whole other world. Please go there, start. And if it feels right to you, continue and make a real commitment to work. Like, look for the team that loves you and that cheers you on. And
Absolutely.
is, of course, trained.
Absolutely. Yeah, we believe in that board of directors, which I guess comes from Dr. Oz, where you talk, where you have your RE, your OBGYN, your acupuncturist, your fertility coach, your nutritionist, your masseuse, your chiro, like everyone's there, but you're at the center of the healing. So you're the connector of your own healing. And a lot of times we go straight to the RE. The RE says, oh, in this case, sorry, you're too old, donor eggs for you.
Yes.
And that imprints in our mind, and we can't even shift that out, where the RE only receives 2 weeks of nutrition training and doesn't even know anything about functional medicine or the rest of these different options. And it really is it's not just one person on the team. Everyone plays the role, but we need to, advocate for ourselves and what feels right for us, and really, have that team. And I like it. You also interviewed Amy Rapp.
I love Amy.
For your book. And I like this quote here that when you spoke to her. So she says, I ask all the ladies that I work with the same question, or the ladies before I start working with them. Do you really believe that you're going to have a baby? If they don't truly believe it, my work cannot be as effective. Because, and a lot of times, it is, and I speak to probably the same as you, women that have been through, 5, 6, 7, 8 IVF, cycles, and huge amounts of IUIs as well. And it's like going down this road of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, definition of insanity. And at that point, there's so much self-care that has to happen, because being years of going through all of this, and it's extremely heartbreaking. And it might get to the point at that point where in the beginning you may have believed, and now trying to believe it can be difficult.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Yeah, it can be very difficult, and that's why I would caution every woman from that, what you often read, just think positive. That in and of itself, that information is valid and good. However, this is very easy to say, and just thinking positive thoughts all of a sudden is going not to change anything. It's like a muscle that you are now developing again. So what Amy means with this is, if you don't really believe that you can have a child, you are not going to follow through on the protocol that I put you on.
Right.
And thus it cannot be as effective. Yeah. There's this real world notion behind that. If you don't believe it, you're not going to do it. And if you don't do the protocol, we cannot get the healing to your body that your body really needs. So this is the real world thought process behind it. And I just want, and this is real, I just want to add that this belief also comes with time. I think that a woman who has been going through, as you said, maybe years of IVF treatment, and she's so now ingrained, and the thoughts that it's not going to work are so ingrained in her mind and in her body, she holds on to that it may take a little time and may need a little more help from somebody who can be a partner for her in this, to go from that. Because now she has exercised for many years that one muscle, that says it's not going to work. It's not going to work here. It hasn't worked. It's like, it hasn't worked. So it's not going to work in the future either. Yeah. To exercising the other one that is more loving and more hopeful. And that says, okay, so now I read a book, The Joy of Later Motherhood. Okay. So maybe, there is another woman I heard of from. Okay. And Amy says, she has lots of other women. They come after so many years of IVF and it works. It is also a steady choice for the woman. She also has to be the CEO of her own health. Mm-hmm. She needs to make a commitment to herself and to saying, okay, I don't know what the future brings, but I can scrap the pieces of myself off the floor. I can put myself together again. I have a team that loves me and supports me. And together, I make the commitment of exercising the other muscle, of exercising the muscle that says, the past is the past. Now I'm really taking good care of my health. I'm doing the things that Amy or whoever says. I'm doing I listen, I take more care of myself. I take more care of the thoughts that I'm consciously choosing. I'm exercising that muscle. And this is a process. This is not something that's going to happen from one week to the other. It happens gradually over time, depending who you are and what kind of commitment you can make. But within a few, like in my experience, it can take a month or two. And then you are having a strong other muscle going on. And the world is sort of, you're coming to a different place, because you say, okay, in the infertility clinic, very often we give our power to the doctor. I mean, they're doing everything. Come on, they're taking eggs, they're taking sperm outside of our body, and they're doing their thing. They have the power, And in the other world, it's like, oh, okay, so what does my body need? How can it love and nurture my body? What can I do? You are the CEO again. And I think in the long run, being the CEO of your own health can lead to wonderful, wonderful, wonderful results. And please don't panic if the exercising of the muscle is not gonna do, it's not from 1 week to the next. Give yourself a little bit of breathing room. This crazy ticking clock, that image, also, whenever that comes into your mind, say, thank you for showing up. I no longer need you. Make this commitment to yourself, to your body, to your health. And be gentle during the time with you. And don't get impatient and saying, oh my God, it's 2 months. I should be, I don't know how far. There is our own timing, and there is also divine timing. And I do believe that, timing is not only up to us.
Yeah, and it is the mind, body, spirit, and kind of come in where, what feels right for you. Some people coming into the mind, body techniques, depending on where you are in the journey, coming into the physical side of things, looking at your, your diet and things like that, and also the spiritual side of it. So it's all equally as important. And it is just to, really show yourself compassion and kindness during this journey. So
yes. Yeah. I just wanted to say that was, that's why we think usually that creating babies is just a physical act. And I come to strongly believe and know that the mind is a huge factor. I mean, that is what tripped me up. My husband and I, we tried for a year and I didn't even get pregnant, nothing, And then I worked on my own mindset, my contradictory thoughts that I had around motherhood. And I took my sweet time. I'm not saying any of our listeners should do that, but I took 2 years to really work out all the kinks that, I had, the contradictory thoughts around motherhood. My husband and I, we went to couples therapy, which was a wonderful idea. So we worked on their relationship, and I worked on myself so much that in between 40 and 41, I couldn't get pregnant. At 43, when I worked on my mindset and I had worked it all out, I got pregnant the first time we tried. So I am a huge believer that, there's not just a physical act. We're influenced by the relationship, by our jobs, by our social circle, and so on. So the mind is huge. Then I have the body section. And then the third pillar is spirit. Mm-hmm. That there is something to be had, something to be said, that children don't come to us when the time is right necessarily only for us. This is not our timetable. It's not only on us when we are creating children. There's also there's a spiritual aspect that I think is very soothing and beneficial for those of us who have a religious or a spiritual inclination to embrace. because I've heard it many times before. Like I remember one of the women that I interviewed, we met, she was like one of those high-powered New York City women, and we met at the park bench down in Battery Park at the church where she worshiped, and we were sitting there, and she said for her the big shift came. So she was in her early 40s and had difficulties getting pregnant for 2 years. She was stressed out. Her relationship was by then not the best with her husband, and she was just stressed out. And she remembers sitting also on a park bench in Central Park in that case, and she saw a pregnant woman walking by, and those very familiar thoughts of a slight, some envy, some sadness for herself. So envy to the woman that was pregnant, some sadness for herself, all these mixed emotions. And then she thought like, but what if this is not only up to me? She thought about God. She was very religious. No, she used to be, not at that point, not at that point, but she thought like, but what if God also has a say in if I'm going to conceive or not? And with that thought of, oh, God also has a hand in my life, that shifted something very significant in her, because all of a sudden it was not only her who did it. It was also not only her who was to blame if it didn't work out. So she had somehow this tight power holding, this tight, oh, this is all me, I need to do this, I need to achieve this. She was able to relax, but just with the thought of, oh my God, what if God has a hand in my life as well? And that was a pivotal moment for her that shifted so much, because she literally, her body started to relax around this topic. Her relationship with her husband improved. She started to go to church again, So it was just that realization that this may not be all up to her made it possible that a year or two later she conceived naturally and has now at least one, if not two children. I have to follow up with her, that she also wanted to share with me. Or I had other women that said, I looked at the Bible, I looked at certain scriptures, and I made it my own. I made them my own. I prayed and prayed and prayed. And, so there's that aspect. And do you have enough time I want to tell you one story about Jenny?
Sure, go ahead.
So Jenny, as I said at the very beginning, I choose the stories that are memorable and extraordinary. And Jenny's stories is extraordinary because for her, it's a very good example of how the mind influences us, and there's also the big spiritual aspect here with her. So Jenny she retrained as an acupuncturist. She was a journalist. She was born in New York City, then moved to London, and had a very fast-paced career in journalism. And she noticed that she was attracted to men that were not just the perfect fits, They were the ones that wanted to go to war. Cover war zones and, go and do their stuff. And she says, I noticed these are not men that would like to have a family with me, because they're just looking when there's another war around the world that they can go and cover. And she started to change her life around in the late 30s. She stopped going to the bars that she usually went to, started to date a different quality of men. So she started to do all the right things. She said at 40, she turned 40. She said she had her up and downs, but she was still good. And then at 41, she went to a doctor. And the doctor, without even looking at her, said, yes, looking at her, but not doing any blood work or anything. It was in London. I think maybe they were a little bit more strongly opinionated over there that I don't know, or maybe it was just a doctor, but he did not do any blood tests. He said because she's 41, she's already too old, she would have to do donor eggs. And that was a big blow to her.
Yeah.
Mind you, so she was 41, she had no idea how her body's working. Yes, she had her cycle every 28 days, but beyond that, she didn't know. But that was a big blow to her confidence. And, she was getting very worked up. A lot of fear started to creep up, a lot of emotions. Oh my God, I'm getting too old. I can't do it anymore, and so on. And I have my partner. And at 42, she turned 42, but she felt still a very strong connection. There's a spiritual point. She said that she felt still that she wants to be a mother, and she's going to be a mother, and she is going to have her girl child, her girl. That was like she had a understanding or a feeling, not an understanding, a gut feeling that there is a spirit of a girl out there for her. And she was so much longing for that child that at 42, after a disastrous relationship, she got ill. She got mentally ill, not physically, but mentally. So ill that her doctor said, Jenny, you are sick. You need to go to an inpatient facility. I will have you committed. That's how bad it got. Mind you, again, she had no idea about how her body's working. This was all in her mind, coming from the outside and coming internally. And she went home and she knew that it's the right thing. Yes, she has to go to the clinic. She's going to do it. And that night, at her house in London, she had that strong urge to connect to her fantasy child and to give birth to her fantasy child. So again, you know, I told the women that I will change the name. I want the real story. This is why she really went so deep with me, and I so appreciate that. So Jenny said that night she lit candles in her house. She squatted down. She in her mind, she gave birth to that fantasy child of hers. She gave birth to her, scooped her up, wrapped her in a blanket, held her, talked to her. She had her child in her arms. Then she went outside into her yard, and then she threw her fantasy child, the girl, up in the air and said, God, please, I am ready. If you can, bring her back to me. She gave her child up to God and said, please, if you can, bring her back to me. And when she first told me these stories, I was so moved. I still am. And I said, Jenny, this sounds fantastic. This is either the strongest wisdom a woman has shared, or the most primal instinct that you had. And to do this, and so much wisdom, it was either that, or Jenny, was that a psychotic episode? Were you going crazy? You know, I had to ask her, because it could be either way. And she said, no. It was not that I was going crazy. It was something that I could do that was much more powerful than curling up in the fetal position on my bed. There was something about, she wanted to connect also to God and give her baby to God, and said, bring her back to me. So it was, she says, no. I was not crazy in that moment at all. It was I think a primal instinct that she felt. This is where the spiritual piece comes in. This, like, her body took over and wanted to do this. And she still had to go to the facility. She spent 1 week at the mental facility just outside on an island off the coast of England. And there was a doctor that she liked and trusted. This is also, you know, that's why I said before, please find somebody who can walk with you on your journey that you trust and that you like, hopefully even, you know, love to a certain extent. And she had done, I think her doctor ordered some blood tests or so before she went into the clinic. And the doctor there said, Jenny, I have some tests here that around your fertility and around your hormones and such. Would you like to know? And she says, yes, I would. And he says, you are perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong with your body. You are a healthy 42-year-old, and I believe you're going to be a mother.
Oh.
And his belief in her was such an encouragement. She said she remembers she was like, it was a huge encouragement for her. It was a huge, just to hear there was nothing wrong with her body. All of this was in her head. There was nothing wrong with her body. And that she said that was a huge, that coming from him, that he said that was huge for her. And also the realization, and this I also heard from many other women, the realization that she had come just through the, what is that, the night, the darkest night of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, and I realized, regardless of what happens, even if I will never have a child, I will be okay. That was the second realization, that I will be okay. I can I can do this and I will be okay even if I wouldn't be a mother. And with this newfound the realization of, hey, my body is okay and I will be okay no matter what, she started her new life. It was September that she came out of the facility. At around Christmas, she met two men, one in London, the other one in New York, where she was from. And she says, I made that conscious decision to continue dating the man in London and not fall for the other one, because he was not really that available. Long distance relationship. And lo and behold, Sarah, Thomas, her now husband, asked after like a few months into the relationship, he was older, he was like 47, he said to her, hey, I know we just started dating, but should we maybe start trying for a child? And lo and behold, she was pregnant within 4 months of a relationship with Thomas. She was pregnant within 4 months. The pregnancy was not the easiest. However, Sarah, she really got her girl. The girl came, like in her words, my girl came back to me. And she had the girl, and I think one or two, so I think she must have been 43, and at 45 she had her boy.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So this is maybe an extremer example of where the mind and spirituality meet in the life of a woman, but it is so beautiful just what she did, and this instinctual nature of a woman. It was an instinct that said to her, my body wants to birth my fantasy child. So there's so much more to creating a family than what meets the eye, and also what we usually think about. And thank you for letting me share this. I just love Jenny.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. Yeah,
I know. I know. I still get goosebumps when she says, "And God, bring her back to me if you can." I'm like, my heartstrings. I know.
Oh, jeez. Awesome. So you have a gift for the listeners here. You have 2 free chapters of your book, so the Joy of Later Motherhood. And
Yes.
Can you share with them what they'll get with those chapters?
Yes. So I just wanted to bring home the importance of your mindset. And so the 2 chapters that I'm sharing, the first one is where my interview with Dr. Northrop, and just how also our cultural beliefs influence our physiology. And then the second chapter is what I call the mind action steps, where you have really good steps of what to take and how to start reframing all that, your thoughts in your head that were nurtured by the narrative, the old narrative, and now we're doing the new narrative. So these 2 chapters of my book for you to start to read. And then also what I would like to do is, if you have any personal questions for me, want to talk about later motherhood, whatever is on your mind, I will include a link to my calendar that we can talk for 20 minutes, which is usually half an hour, because I don't take it so seriously with the time. We can also do a one-on-one talk to me, whatever is on your mind, how I can help you. It's like I very happily do that. So it's the chapters of my book and also some personal time with me if you'd like.
Beautiful. Awesome. So you can go to Bettina, Bettina Gordon, Gordon.com/P/gift. And we'll have the link in the show notes. And thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. I love your passion. And I love the fact that, you've interviewed all these stories, these success stories. So surround yourself with positive, not positive, but it's positive stories that are encouraging, and to know that it can happen and be able to shift your thoughts around this journey. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, Sarah, I thank you. It was lovely. And as you say, I'm so passionate. It's like really, I love talking about it.
Yes. Love it.
Thank you.
Hey there, Sarah Clark here. So are you struggling to have your baby? First of all, please know that my heart goes out to you. I support couples worldwide who are struggling with infertility to conceive and have healthy babies. Women like Rita, who gave birth to her beautiful daughter after following my fertility coaching system. Or Danielle, who after 2 failed IUIs was able to get pregnant after a supercharger fertility discovery call with me. So here's how you get my help for free. So I offer a free supercharger fertility discovery call. And on that call, I'll create a plan with you that is going to help you fast track your success. So this call is not for everyone. and I'm really picky about who I get to speak with. And I have a strict but totally reasonable criteria that needs to be met in order for us to move forward. So here's who I can help. So first of all, you need to be able to explore your infertility diagnosis in a new light. So this offers for people who are open-minded, they're coachable, and if you can do that and want to double or triple your chances at the fertility clinic or get pregnant, awesome. So let's get on the phone and chat. Also, you must be an action taker. So someone who's committed to seeing results, you're able to follow directions. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do anything bizarre. But if you're one of those people who like to consume a ton of information, but don't like to spend time implementing and seeing results, then the call's not really for you. So I only want to spend time with people who are genuinely committed to their own success. So just click on the link in the show notes and apply, or go to fabfertile.com and click on the free consult. So it's a really short application that just tells me about your health, how long you've been trying to conceive, and how soon you'd like to be pregnant. So seriously, this is going to be the best time you've ever spent on your fertility. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to Get Pregnant Naturally. Seriously, it means the world to me that you're here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. I'm excited to offer you a special gift. If you're a U.S. resident, text FERTILE to 345-345. You'll be prompted to enter your email address and you'll receive our fertility yoga download. In this 20-minute intro video, we focus on a calming and peaceful practice to connect back to your heart. These simple fertility yoga poses can help quiet negative thoughts and make you feel more in control. Download it now and get started today. So for U.S. residents, text FERTILE, FERTILE, to 345-345. For non-U.S. residents, go to www.yogafreebie.com to access your special gift. That's www.yogafreebie.com to access the free fertility yoga download. And I love this quote by Dr. Mark Hyman, medical director of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine and chairman of the Institute for Functional Medicine. Functional medicine is medicine by cause, not by symptom. Functional medicine practitioners don't in fact treat disease. We treat your body's ecosystem. We get rid of the bad stuff, put in the good stuff, and because your body is an intelligent system, it does the rest. Thanks for listening. Until next time.